Welcome to this guided series for new players to Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. In this video, what we're going to be doing is covering the basics of logistics and, more importantly, distribution offices, and having an understanding of how logistics work in this game is pretty fundamental to success in getting your goods moved around the map. And at the moment, I'm just kind of talking because we're just in the process of completing the research which will actually unlock the distribution offices, which are down in this area here. See, at the moment the vehicle distribution offices are grayed out, although we do have a free distribution office, so you can see we just completed the research. We got the notification up here, and you can see the notifications are kind of starting to pile up. You can come back here, and just to give you an example of other notifications, we've got a global market report about the price of coal, not even worth worrying about, to be honest. And of course, what you get now also was probably one of the more regular messages, especially early in the game, is that you can see that's the notification for the previous one. But you can see a lot of it is about new vehicle types. And it looks like we've also had a pandemic. And what you can do here is just delete them all and just clear out the entire messages. Now, before we get into talking about the logistics, I just want to talk a little bit about research. Now, what I would recommend is that don't continuously drive research, because you do need to have more educated people in your economy, because education is very much a long-term project. I think that applies to all city building type games. You do need to keep that education flowing, and what you do need is to get a reasonable supply of educated people coming in to drive your economy. Because I've got 9.5 million, what I'm going to do is actually do another research. But this is more preparation for possibly the next episode, which is that I'm going to start researching party members ranking, because I want to unlock secret police. To be completely honest, unlocking secret police at this early point in the game during the first year is not really a priority, because at the moment the loyalty is still quite strong. It's 56%, but I want to unlock that, so that I can talk about it in an upcoming part. So what we got now is we've now got access to distribution offices. But before I talk about distribution offices, I want to talk about the basics of logistics, because of course what you've got to do is, at the moment we've only got one source here, which is the customs shed, which will give us all the resources we need. And of course what we'll be doing is moving fuel into the gas station. We need to deliver coal up here. And of course, more importantly, we need to deliver the various requirements to our residents in our shopping mall here. That opens up the next question about, well, if you've got auto purchase, why do you need to bring the trucks in manually? The reason for that is, if I come into here and we go to auto purchase, what you will see is that whenever you are bringing stuff with auto purchase, there is a delivery cost. At the moment, it's 2.49 rubles per ton. As it says below here, cost of is calculated according to the distance from the borders. That's probably the fundamental thing, that eventually what will happen is that this cost will get to almost the same amount of what you're actually paying for an item. And of course, food, clothes, electronics is quite expensive. But if we go over to coal, what you'll see is, if we come into the auto purchase for coal, you can see that the delivery cost is 2.86 rubles per ton, and you can see here, but we're only paying 8.32 rubles per ton of coal. So we're already paying nearly 25% of the cost in delivery charge. So it doesn't take much imagination that, say we had a town way out over here towards the center of the map, and we were delivering the coal from the customs shed, what will happen is that eventually you'll be paying more in delivery cost than the actual value of the coal itself. So this is something you do need to consider. But of course the downside is that even if you are going to bring in manual trucks, they consume fuel, which means that there is still always will be an implied delivery cost, which is based on the fuel consumption of the truck. Going over to manual trucks doesn't mean it's actually free, unless of course you're playing with no fuel to vehicles. But to be honest, it's not worth the effort. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to set up the most basic kind of route, and we're going to do it for a, oops, just get rid of all that lot. Come back to here. The game can be a little bit annoying. So, and you can see at the moment we've only got one refrigeration truck, and all it does is carry meat. All the vehicle types in this game have specializations. If I buy the truck, then I'll just give you a quick tour. I ignore the construction vehicles. Now, the comp for delivering to towns, you got the covered holes. You can see covered holes deliver things like food, clothes, and electronics, which is what we'll be using in a little while. Then you've got open holes. If I can find it down here, open holes actually deliver most of the items that you will need for construction. It's also, as you can see here, is got actually moves around some of the processed waste, but don't worry too much about that. Then of course what we've got is oil tankers, which if you can see here moves around the fluid, and what we'll be doing in a little while is using this to import fuel. And then of course the other one is a dumper here, which moves your aggregates, and of course we're going to be using this to actually bring in the actual coal itself to our heating plant. Now, so we've now got our truck, and what we're going to do is set up a route. Now this is set up in a similar way to the way buses are set up. Obviously you have a loading point. Now, because this is a refrigerated truck and it only carries meat, therefore you don't need to worry about checking this box here. In fact, you can't check the box because the game knows that the only thing you're going to be carrying is meat. Now what we're going to do is deliver meat to the shopping mall. Now we've got a cargo I'll drop off here, but we can't put the refrigerator truck onto here because the warehouse here does not store meat. In fact, there is a specialized storage, and if you come into here called meat storage here, and the downside of this meat storage is the fact that it holds about 75 tons of meat. Therefore, it's the only way you can really put a storage off of one of these type shopping buildings is if you actually use a mod. But that's outside the remit of this video. Anyway, we're going to come back to here. So what we're going to be doing is going like putting that on there. And what this means is the truck will come here and deliver the meat. And if we click the launch thing up here, I'm just going to let it run. Now, this is not the ideal. This is the kind of minimum delivery route that you will be using. I'm just going to run the game quickly. And then one of the first things you'll see is the truck comes into here and fills up with fuel. Now, if we track this truck like this, and you can see it will go down the border. And if you want to see the route, you can do this. And you can see what the game's actually decided is that this wants to go around that way. So what I am going to do is just give you an example. What should happen now is if I just put the auto purchase on so we can do this straight away. And I think what I will do is build a road down here. And this is a feature of the game, is that what will happen is that the game will calculate the shortest distance. Now this distance isn't actually a physical distance, it's actually a combination of physical distance and road speed. I've lost the truck. Now if you ever lose the truck, what you do is you come to the actual shopping mall here. If you go down to the bottom, you will find it here. Now what this does is it gives you the route. Now it's also worth noting that you don't get line spacing with delivery trucks. And then what we're going to do is find there. It looks like the truck got itself a little bit lost. Now this can happen when the truck does its first outrun. Now what you'll see is if we got the refrigerator truck there, just close that down. Now if I bring this building up over here and we show the meat, and what you see is the truck will go into here and he will drop the 3 tons, and then what will happen is that he won't wait even though he's got 4.5 tons left on the truck. So this is the worst type of delivery option that you've got. But the way to fix it is if you come into here, come to the shopping mall, and you see next to where it says unload, it says wait until unloaded. Now if you click that, and of course you have to accept the changes. Now what will happen now is if we let the truck run to the border again to pick up some more meat. And I'll just kind of cut the video here, and I'll be back when he actually returns to the shopping mall. Okay, welcome back. You can see the truck is now coming into our town, coming up on the shopping mall over here. What you will see again, I'll just put the here. And what you see is the truck will come in and unload. And what the truck will do now is just sit here until this storage is empty, which means in the case of meat, because we're in a small town, he could be here for a very long time. So this is the most basic kind of route, and the fact that the truck's not running backwards and forwards is saving fuel, because of course if you use the previous option, that truck would have been running backwards and forwards consuming fuel even though he wasn't actually doing anything constructive. However, there is a downside to using routes like that, and that is the fact that this truck now is occupying one of these slots for the shopping mall. Now could be very tempted to say, okay, I've got another slot, I will do another route like this. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is that one of these slots is needed for service vehicles, because if you buildings that are connected by road, the certain types of vehicles like fire trucks, and of course, eventually, if you're playing with waste enabled, you may need a slot there so that the truck can go and collect waste. So it doesn't pay to block off all your slots using these types of trucks. This is where distribution offices come in, and that's what we're going to be looking at now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do the shopping mall at the moment. What we're going to do is a kind of basic setup for the delivery of fuel. Because to be completely upfront, the delivery of fuel is probably one of the first things you're ever going to set up in the game. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to use a little bit of a trick here. Now, because it's the game player in me that's I'm just going to turn that off, because I'm going to put a road in there and a road in there like that, and we're just going to trim this road back. Now, what I've just done is a little bit of a trick that you can do. Say, for example, that you may want to build a road out this way, which is a very real possibility, because the way the game goes is that if you come out here like this, the game won't let you make a square junction. And so then what you'd end up doing is something like this. You'd have to put a curve in. You'd have to curve like that. But what you can do is create a square junction by putting the extra road in and then deleting it. But what I will do is we're just going to upgrade this like this. We'll just let it run. Okay. Well, let's build this. I should have left the auto purchase on, shouldn't I? So what I've done here is created a road where I can put some distribution truck vehicles on. Now, when it comes to distribution offices, there's two ways you can use them. One is to push, which means basically you put the distribution office close enough to the source. In fact, the general rule is that you put the distribution office closest to the source rather than the delivery point. And as I say, you can use things in two ways. One, you can do what you could call a pull, which is we're pulling resources from the custom shed to deliver to the shopping mall over here. And then there's the one where you say there's a push. So say, for example, say we had a manufacturing factory out here and we wanted to deliver the custom shed. What you want to do is put the distribution office closest to where the storage is of the goods that you want to export. The reason for that is that if you imagine that you build a distribution office here, in fact we will build a distribution office here, probably be a better way to explain it. Distributing fuel can become quite a major enterprise, so what I would suggest is that you go for a pretty big building like this. And what we're going to do is put this in here. Actually, no, I don't really like that. It's a bit too big. And what I'm doing here is putting in a distribution office here. I should put auto purchase on. We're just going to build the distribution office And you can see what we've done now is got a distribution office here. What I'm going to do now is use a little bit of a trick. I'm going to make this into a one-way road. The reason I'm making this into a one-way road is that I know that this distribution office is going to pick up from the customs shed, but I don't want other vehicles coming in here and causing congestion. You could say this is equivalently a private road, or a road that's available to any truck that wants to go to the customs shed, but I don't want trucks coming up here, because eventually this will be a one-way road. Anyway, so we've now built our first distribution office. What you can see in here, it says building there is without a power supply, and it says needs some vehicles. Now if I come into here, and what we're going to do is come in here and we're going to set up a fuel route. So we're going to load fuel here and unload fuel. What you will see straight away now is the distribution office is telling you it doesn't know what you want to deliver. What you want to do, if we kind of remove all connections, when you're setting up a distribution office, and in this one we're going to set up fuel, what you want to do is buy your first truck. So what we're going to do is buy an oil tanker. When you're choosing your first for a truck for a distribution office, what you've got to try and do is strike a balance between speed and capacity, kind of liking this truck here. I mean, it can carry 7 tons or 11 tons of fuel, and it's actually got a top speed of 70 kilometers an hour. So what we're going to do is I'm going to buy 2 of those. You don't need to buy large numbers of them. And then now if you see here, what we got here is, you can see the game offers the options, but this time what we're going to do is actually set up the route. Now obviously we want to deliver to the gas station here, and there's other buildings that need it. If you're never too sure where you've got to connect to, if you come to here, you click on here, if you come up the top, it says always show overlay. This is an option that if you want to monitor something, because if you don't have this on, when you close it, that disappears. But if you want to monitor something constantly, a good one is crops. What it will do is it will show you where your fuel depots are. Now, and what I'm going to do is kind of set them all up for the moment. I wouldn't recommend it too much for this, but what I would do is, you want to put fuel into your end station, so that means the buses don't go to the gas station. We'll put it in the gas station there. Now because the fire station is next to the gas station, you could, if you wanted to, not bother with putting fuel into here. Now the other thing you need to be aware of is the fact that this is going to be quite a big outset of cost, but we're going to do them all. And then what we've got over here is the hospital. So what we're going to do is deliver fuel to all these different buildings. One thing I want to draw your attention to is the fact that a distribution office can only have 20 connections. That includes pickups and drops. Alongside here you've got a number of buttons. What this does is it allows you to reorganize your connections. What I'd like to do, although I must admit I'm not totally disciplined with this, is the fact that I'd like to have my pickup points at the top so I can see where they're actually going to. Now the next one across, it says copy tasks to another buildings. This is quite useful where you may want to duplicate the distribution. Probably the best example of that is that if, say, you imagine that you've, in the early game, you set up a distribution office that, say, wants to deliver food and clothes and electronics, which is what we will be doing in a little while. But eventually, say your economy's grown, so you've got a couple of towns here, and you want to specialize the distribution offices, and in what you're doing is delivering to the shops. So what you can do is copy over the tasks from the distribution office and then specialize them to food and, say, clothes. You can set a general distribution percentage, or for source buildings. What this is for when you are pushing to the border, and you've got one for all destination buildings. At the moment, the default is 30%. Now, 30% is a good start. So if we let the game run now, and you'll see what will happen is the trucks will start to move. Now, when you're playing with auto purchase on, what you want to do now is come in to do the auto purchase, and what you want to do is just reduce the auto purchase down to a lower level. Now 30% of 70 tons is what reason it's about 20 tons, isn't it, around that point there? Yeah, I think, yeah, 325 is 75, so you can say it's about 18 tons. And what you do is reduce the fuel level down in all these buildings. It can be a little bit this can be a little bit tedious. Now the idea is that while you're still especially when this is your first game, what this will do is let you practice setting up distribution routes. You can reduce the fire station right down really low. In fact, what you probably could do, what's the storage capacity in 40 tons? So what we could do is come in here, find the fire station, and maybe reduce that to 20 tons. The reason for that is that for the majority of the game, your fire trucks are just going to be sat here doing nothing, where the hospital is a little bit different. So what we'll do, oops, don't want that, auto purchase. What we'll do is reduce you down to, well, we'll put 2 tons down here. Now with hospitals and fire stations, don't worry too much about them running out of fuel, because the game is intelligent enough to send the ambulances and the fire trucks to the gas station to pick up. So when you're actually setting up your logistics system, what you want to do is just make sure that there's always plenty of fuel in your gas stations, simply because this is the building even buses will go to get fuel. I'm curious about this button. I've never seen it before. Oh, I think I know. I think what that is, that if you come into here, sometimes trucks can get a bit stuck, and they've got, and especially if you're delivering mixed resources, which is what we're going to do in a little while. And what can happen is, say a truck gets in, say in this example, and we were delivering fuel and bitumen. If it's got a little bit of bitumen left in it, it won't deliver fuel. And the only way you can do it is by using this button to clear the fuel out. Now, what I want to do next is we're going to set up another distribution office. So we come in here, and again, we're just going to stay with the smaller ones at the moment, just partly just to save money, to be honest. What we'll do is come in here, and we'll come in here. Now, one thing I will mention is that you cannot supply fuel to a building that does not have power. So if you, especially gas stations, the only exception to that is the free gas station here. This free gas station, it's only got, where is it? It's only got, I can't tell you how many, I think it's only got a single slot for deliveries and pickups. And you can see you can get 12 of these. This gas station is the only building that you can deliver fuel to that it doesn't have power. So what we got now is our second distribution office, and what we're going to be using this for is to deliver the food, clothes and electronics to it. And what we're going to do is buy a covered hole. Now this is where things can get a little bit tricky, and this is one of the reasons why I've already mentioned that you need to do some specialization. The reason for that is if we go by capacity, go to covered hole filter, what you see is you get a range of vehicles that do deliveries. Now you've got this one that can deliver up to 6.5 tons of clothes and food, and you've also got smaller ones that can go all the way down to 0.63 tons of clothes. Now, one of the possible problems that you can have when you're setting up a distribution office is choosing the appropriate truck to go into here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy 3 covered holes of the big ones, because with food and clothes and what we're going to be doing is delivering them into here. Now one thing you will see now in this warehouse is the fact that at the moment it's completely open, and what can happen there is you can start a bit of a contest with respect to what actually gets delivered. So what you need to do is set the limit on. What this does is allow you to set individual limits, because the total capacity of the warehouse is divided between all the different options. Now, what you need to do is kind of choose the amount of what you actually need based on consumption. Now, in a store, what is consumed most is food. Then you get clothes, and then you get electronics. So what we're looking for is probably, I'm going to put 14 tons of food in. It's probably a little bit over the top, but one thing you do need to do is plan a little bit for winter. Now, one problem you can have is the fact that I don't want electro components, I want electronics. If you reduce the electronics down, sometimes it will disappear like that. But if you want to do a bit more of a finer adjustment, what you've got to do is choose another one of these and adjust it correspondingly. In fact, if you wanted to do it kind of in a more regulated way, knowing the fact that this is actually doing it, what you can do is, we don't want to deliver alcohol, we'll come to alcohol later on. What you do is you reduce it down to the number of items that will be delivered to the store plus one, like crops. And then what you can do is pick the electronics. And then what you can do is use this to adjust the overall delivery. 31 tons is probably a bit too much. 11 tons there. We'll reduce the... they close down to 4. 4 tons will be more than enough. And we've got, maybe that's a little bit, 2 tons of electronics. So what you need to do is balance this store here before you actually set up your distribution office, because of course you're going to be delivering various quantities of goods. One of the downsides, and again this is another argument for why you want to specialize, because if we come into here, pick in here and say load, now again the game's got the intelligence to actually work out what it needs to deliver when you set up the delivery point, which of course will be the cargo station here, and you go like this. Now, what I like to do is actually, and this is very much a personal preference, you don't need to do it, the game can work out exactly what you actually need. What I like to do is actually specify what is being picked up and what is being unloaded. The reason for that is that this actually makes it a lot more easier to identify and avoid mistakes, because the game will be quite flexible if you do make a mistake. The other top tip I will say is, I'm going to call this Strack Food Close, and I tend to use the word drop. And this is very much a top tip, guys, is once you start using logistics and these different buildings, is get into the habit of renaming them. So what we'll do is we'll just let the game run. You can see the trucks will go out. In fact, I will rename this as well, and we'll call it Strack Fuel Delivery. Renaming your buildings, as I say, I always start off with absolutely perfect intentions, then generally it starts to deteriorate over time. So what we'll have is the trucks coming out here, coming into here. Now what we can do is add this distribution office to the building. Now, but what you will see is this building doesn't have a power supply. Is he actually going to go and deliver the fuel? Personally, I don't. Oh yeah, he's not actually going to deliver to here. The reason for that is that we don't have any power here. But as soon as we put power into the area, then what will happen is that this will come into it. But generally, I don't bother with putting fuel supplies into distribution offices, simply because the trucks themselves are roving around the map. Therefore, what they can do is stop off at various gas stations like these guys are doing on their way round. And what you'll see is they're coming into here. Now, what you will see over here is that resources are building into this area here. Now, if you are using auto purchase, what you need to do is switch off the auto purchase in here. So what we're going to do, actually, we're going to turn the auto purchase off. The reason for that is that if you're going to use auto purchase, what you need to do is put the auto purchase on here. Okay, we got 8 tons. Actually, I don't think I'm going to bother with auto purchase because we only got the one set of trucks. What you want to do is put the auto purchase on the warehouse, because if you put the auto purchase here, what will happen is the game will keep trying to top up the shopping center. Because the way what happens is, and this is probably getting a little bit beyond logistics, but it's important to understand, is stores are passive. So the truck unloading here will push to the warehouse, and then the mall will pull from the warehouse as and when it needs. So what you can get is the fact that in here the shopping center will look empty, where your actual resources are stored in here. And that's something that can catch you out when you're first learning the game. In fact, it catches me out even despite the fact I've got thousands of hours in the game. Sometimes you look at it, you think, oh, there's nothing in the building. And a warehouse that's attached to what you would call a building capable of pulling is seen as an extension of this shopping mall. It's not a separate storage as such. It's seen as one together. But one thing you can't do is connect two warehouses together. So if I put a warehouse down and then put another warehouse next to it and connected it with a factory connection, it would not work. And in that scenario, what you actually do is use fork trucks. But more importantly, what you've got to accept is that if you're connecting two warehouses and putting a fork truck in between, you've got to understand the reason why you're actually doing it. You can see at the moment these guys are quite happy. They put the 30% of the food in again there. In fact, what I'll probably do is push that to 40. One thing you do need to consider, again, it's not important now, but as your economy expands out, is that when winter comes, and in fact what I'll do is I'll play through and show you what the effect of winter is. When winter comes, you need to have enough in here to compensate for delays caused by the slower speed of the vehicles. So that is there. Now we've got one more area left to set up over here, which is our heating plant. Now this, where it says general cargo, to get the aggregate stores, what you've actually got to do is click on the conveyor belt. If you want liquid stores, you click on pipes. If you want the dry bulk, you come in here, and what you get is the relative storage coming in. And what I'd probably do is put in, and what you've got is a whole range of things here. Now you've got a small free aggregate store. Top tip here, guys, don't bother with these free storage unless you really need something to store them, because you can see it's got no conveyor belt connection. Therefore, it's pretty naff, actually, to be honest. Yeah, don't bother with the storage unless you really have to. Now comes the fun bit. Now, what you need to do is, now you can put a tower in between, but what you want to do when you're connecting up an aggregate store to a power station, a heating plant or power station or anything, the rules are very similar to what I've just previously mentioned. What you want is a direct connection, because the heating plant will pull the coal in from the aggregate store, because the aggregate store is passive but the heating plant is active. So just to show you that, if we come into here and we connect that in, you can see the snow's just come in. And what you do with a store is you've got to come into here, and if I auto purchase coal like that, and then we turn off the auto purchase here to cancel that. If we let this run down, what will happen eventually is when this runs out, it will start pulling the coal from there. Just to finish this video off, because I don't want it to be too long, we've got our first snow, and what you will see is our trucks are running here and our plows will be out and running around this way. And if we pick up the bus here, you can see that now this bus has got a potential top speed of 85 kilometers an hour. But you can see, because there's a little bit of snow on here, the speed is a little bit restricted. You'll see the speed will pick up on the ploughed sections, and then what you'll see again, the speed will then drop down what the speed drop is, if you see here, is depends on the road, and what it is about 50% of the speed that you can actually go on the road. Now this is an example where you can get traffic jams. The plow will come into here, and if you filled up all the slots in the building, for some strange reason the plow seems to need the slot to be able to turn round. So we got this here, and these guys are off ploughing left, right and centre, obviously concentrating on there. Now the other thing that's just flashed up is the research is finished, so I'm going to kick off the secret police because we're going to need that for the next part. One final tip I will give you is that when you want to stress test your economy, always go over it in winter, because winter is the point where if there's any problems or weaknesses in your delivery system, your overall distribution, this is going to be winter that's going to show it up. But just final conclusion, you see that the reserves in the actual heating plant now have run out, and what's happening now is this is now drawing the coal from this aggregate store. So that's the reason why I turned off the auto purchase, because if you left the auto purchase on here and you were delivering coal to here, coal would never be used because the building would carry on purchasing from the outside. Anyway, this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. What I will do is play on until we unlock the secret police. Possibly try and get rid of all the snow as well, because snow can be a little bit of a pain in the neck. And in the next part, we will be taking a look at setting up your secret police system. But so until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.